What is it exactly that Cardano does for people who are not eyeball deep in the digital asset space?
Yeah, so basically it's just a collection of protocols and technology that allows you to transform, store, and manage value, identity, and governance. So if you have an instrument of value, that could be a stock, a bond, a commodity, a token, an NFT, like a Pokemon card. It doesn't really matter. You need some place to store it, transmit it. You need some place to build contractual relationships around it. Like I'll give you my Pokemon cards if you mow my lawn, that type of a deal. Okay. Identity is who are you? Normally we take that for granted. Oh, I have passport, I have driver's license, but you have credit score. Is it a fair credit score? Maybe, maybe not. For some bizarre reason, my secretary has a higher credit score than I do, and I'm a billionaire. So I'm just trying to figure that one out. So there's something about that system that doesn't seem intrinsically right, but okay. And so there's a lot of these things that don't make a lot of sense in how identity is brokered and handled in our world, but in the developing world, it's non-existent in many places. There's tons of people there that are brilliant, that are honest, that are very hardworking, and they are completely shut off from the global economy because there's no way to assess whether that counterparty is reputable, trustworthy. Like, for example, microfinance. Let's say some guy runs a farm and says, I want $200, $300 for a loan for fertilizer. And if I do this, I can upgrade my farm, get much better yields, and I'll make windfall money, and I'll be able to pay that back. You say, great, 85% interest. You say, oh God, that's usurious. I say, well, how do I trust the counterparty? How do I know you're actually going to pay me back? The default rate may be high, may be low. There's no credit systems in a lot of these places. Yeah. So identity is a huge problem, and that's why 3 billion people are under or unbanked in the entire world. And that's why remittances are 15%. That's why microfinance is so expensive. That's why we don't have good insurance markets in these places to protect people on the downside. So we need an engine for identity. And then finally, for governance, how do you govern things? Like, for example, these transnational trade agreements. I was just at a meeting with a major telco, and we were complaining about Verizon and Sprint and T-Mobile, and these agreements for roaming and these agreements for brokering data capacity amongst the networks. And it's just very ossified. So what happens when those telcos want to meet with Mobicom in Mongolia? What happens when those telecoms want to go meet with people in the UK or across the world? How do they broker transnational agreements? Is there just going to be one universal government to decide how telecommunications should work? Is the ITU going to somehow be in charge of every teleco in the world? No. You have to broker trust relationships between these entities to be able to move subscribers and data and other such things between networks, because we travel. If I land in Heathrow, I'd like, when I turn my phone on, for my phone to work. And it shouldn't take 500 lawyers and billions of dollars to make such an arrangement work. It should be seamless from one system to another system. And that's where there's Fortune 500. What about medical records? I've been 52 countries in the last few years, and I'm thinking, gosh, what if I got in a car accident in Tanzania and I'm unconscious? And there's a Tanzanian doctor calls my doctor in Colorado and says, hey, Charles is unconscious, but I need all of his medical records because I'm trying to treat him. No, trust me, I'm real and legit. He can't talk to you, though, because he's unconscious. How does he get my medical records to treat me? I could be gone for days, and there might be vital information there. So there's just a simple problem brokering the movement of medical records from one country to another country. And that's the point of these protocols, is that there's a million of these problems, whether it be the adulteration of drugs, like Mongolia, a third of all the medicine in that country is in some way bad, could be expired or mislabeled or counterfeit. So if you're trying to take an antibiotic, you have 1-3 chance of getting a bad pill. That's a problem. And the point of our industry, this technology, is to say it's a Swiss Army knife of protocols where you can build applications on top of it that handle that brokering of value, identity, and governance so that you can solve real problems. And you can solve them in a way where everybody participating in them, they all know the rules up front. Okay, they don't have a situation where one party knows more than another party. There's no information asymmetry. They don't have a situation where there's a gatekeeper who can shut you out. Even in the social media side of things, the deplatforming. The reason that happens is the social networks are the boat and the river. They are the ones who get you into the flow of information, but they also own the river. So they get to decide which boats get to sail there. So if you're on Twitter and you get deplatformed, you lose access to the entire Twitter network. And you're no longer a member of that massive community. The same for Facebook or so forth. And it's even worse that the places where they're not the river, they cooperate with each other. And they'll say, well, if somebody competes with us and we don't like their values, we're going to deplatform them so they have no marketplace. That's because the protocols are the companies together. And wherever you fall politically on that, maybe you're a winner in that, maybe you're a loser in that, but it's a real bad idea in society for only a small group of companies to have so much control over so many people and be unelected and unaccountable to the democratic process. And so the point of this protocol approach is saying, let's reimagine these things where we separate the boats from the river. Let's reimagine these things where we start with the trust relationships and say, what are the rules for everybody? And then how do we broker the flow of information and value? And how do we govern that in a way that's equally fair to everyone? And then you could build solutions on top of it. And then suddenly you have medicine that's not adulterated. Suddenly you can have freedom of speech if that's important to you. Suddenly you can now have a situation where you can get a loan that doesn't cost 85% interest. Suddenly you can get remittances where you can instantly move money to your family back in Mexico City or in Cebu. And it doesn't cost you $15 to move $100. It costs you 5 pennies or something like that. The other thing is the liquefaction of value. That's a huge component in our industry. There's so much in life that's illiquid. Let's say you collect art. It's very valuable art. What is your exit strategy for that? You have to sell it. What's your marketplace for $100 million, Da Vinci? It's not very good, and it takes quite a bit of time. Or real estate, like what if you have this incredible real estate portfolio? How long would it take you to liquidate $3 billion of real estate or something? That's a very time-consuming, stressful problem. What if you could fractionalize that? Yeah. Sell a quarter of a racehorse, quarter of a painting or something, that you can liquidate that much more easily. What about intangibles, like a pharmaceutical company? Its primary value is usually its intellectual property portfolio. What if you're an up-and-coming pharmaceutical company that has this incredible IP portfolio, but no market yet, because it's still going to take 5-10 years to get approvals and develop it out, like Novavax or like Moderna or these other companies? They got very lucky with the pandemic. It gave them an injection of capital, but they had yet to deliver products to market. Novavax case 30 years. However, now that they're rolling, they're probably going to have a $10 billion revenue line every year. Well, what if you could tokenize the IP portfolio for future returns and go and sell that on a market? And that's just a magical thing, and to be able to get liquidity at the small scale all the way up to the global scale and have universal markets for this. And here's where it gets really cool. And this is kind of the capstone of all of it. When you go to Starbucks or McDonald's or these places, usually you pay in dollars or euros, and they get paid in dollars or euros. But what if we could move to a world of a universal wallet where your wealth is no longer represented in a sovereign currency? It's whatever the heck you want, and it's as diversified as you want. You can have airline miles and silver and gold and stocks and bonds and real estate and your labor. You can pre-sell your hours, all of these things into a giant wallet, okay? Along with maybe dollars or whatever. And when you go to Starbucks and you pick whatever you want. Maybe you're going to sell 0.0003% of your house as a token. And they get paid in whatever they want. So maybe Starbucks that year says, we want to take a position in silver. So for 30% of our transactions, we'll be paid in silver. So you pay in your house, they get paid in silver. And there's these decentralized rails that figure out how to sort all that out, transform all that value, do it at a very efficient price, and settle instantly with no counterparty risk. Everybody gets paid in what they want, where they want. So you move from wealth as I'm this many dollars to wealth as, whatever portfolio you want. That is the primary utility of this entire thing, is to create a system where we can emerge up to that. Everyone has access to it. Everyone's a participant. Billions of people are all collectively in the same things. And it's fraud-free, corruption-free. No government can step in and shut somebody out. You all have access to the same river.